Good evening, everyone. Live from Silicon Valley, California. This is Bhakti Community. My name is JM, and I welcome you all to a program today, Bhakti On. And today's topic is still in the swing. Life moves up and down. You don't have to. With a speaker today, Vaish, a veteran Bhakti yogi, author, and former monk. We have around 15 members on Zoom. People are still dialing in, and I have Prime Minister helping me out in managing social media today. Good evening, Vaish. Welcome back to another episode of Bhakti On.
Thank you very much, JM, for such a warm welcome. And great to see you all there. Looks like some have maybe joined for the first time. Look forward to meeting you if that's the case. And looking forward to a lively discussion today about one of the foundational principles given not only in Bhakti Yoga, but that which is ubiquitous through all spiritual disciplines, which has to do with equanimity, which requires its help from its cousin, tolerance. And the practice of these, someone may think, well, I'm either tolerant or I'm not tolerant. It depends on my mood or the situation. But according to the Bhagavad Gita, tolerance is a practice, and so is equanimity. Right, JM? Right, Charles? We'll see Charles in a minute. So great. Thanks for joining, everyone. And let's just see if anyone wants to introduce a friend.
Yes, so if you've brought in your friend or if you've joined for the first time, please feel free to unmute and say hi. Would love to hear from you. Where are you joining from? What inspired you to join? We are very eager to learn more. Or if you returned after a long time, we'd like to hear from you too.
Okay, I'm going to start by saying something I learned today. And then some of you can say one thing you learned from today. Is that fair enough?
Yes.
Okay. Let's see what I wrote down. Goodness gracious. I wrote so many things down. I know. I heard last night someone said, you should spread kindness like confetti. First in the Bhagavad Gita, Krishna mentions we should be a kind friend to all living beings. But then when somebody gave that visual of spreading kindness like confetti, it gave new meaning. Okay, your turn. One lesson you learned today or yesterday, and I hope you wrote it down. If you didn't, I hope it was memorable enough that you can recall it now. You didn't think I was going to make you work hard today, right? Oh, good. Rakesh, one thing you learned.
Hare Krishna Prabhu. One thing I learned is if we are situated properly, then we can overcome our mental loops. So that's what I was seeing. Like I was hearing your lecture this morning, and that was very inspiring um, to chant. I think it was on chanting. So when I when I chanted, put in effort in that, then the entire day usually like I get distracted by my phone or something else, but then I felt that I was going beyond what my mental routine is, and I was able to choose it. My mind was more peaceful and satiated. So I think if you're situated properly by the mercy of hearing and chanting, then we can go beyond our impressions and mental loops. Hare Krishna.
Thank you very much. Definitely memorable. Phil, what'd you learn?
What did I learn? First of all, good morning. It's morning here
Good
in
morning.
Australia. What I'm learning is how important my morning routine is. So I'm doing it for a few. I was doing it in Krishna Village, but I brought it back home. So I'm continuing it, getting up at 6, putting on some beautiful Krishna music, having a cup of tea. In the first hour, I'm just listening to the music and just relaxing, and it's amazing how many things I'm accomplishing during the day. So my morning routine at the moment is great, and I've just got to keep it up. Yeah.
Nice. Great secret to take on. Sherelle,
Hare Krishna, nice to be here.
good to see you.
Um, so with the situation that I'm currently experiencing with this heart attack and recovery, I've been in and out of hospital a few times, but the other day when I was in there, I was in a bit of chaos because I've had like some side effects from medication and my body was very depleted because of bleeding and I needed to have an iron infusion, but the hospital they don't do it in emergency, it's just their rules. And I was kind of stressing out and I turned to Krishna to pray and I was like, Krishna, please like help me accept this situation. Please give me what I need in this iron infusion. And I just like stopped and I felt Krishna's presence. And what I was asking for wasn't what I needed. What I needed was to surrender to Krishna's will and to accept that Krishna had the plan. And that I could let go and surrender, and what would be would be. So that was my profound realization a couple of days ago that we're not in control. And yeah, we can take steps to ask for what we want and need, but ultimately, Krishna's already got that sorted.
Oh, thanks, Sherelle. That resonates very deeply. And I'm sure we're all threatened at one time or another, or aware that we're in a precarious situation. And hearing your way of dealing with the situation you're in is heartening. Thank you very much. Radhakripa.
Yes, I was just cleaning my desk and on a piece of paper, I found what I wrote some time ago, I don't know when, that Krishna loves to hear his name. Then I was just thinking, when somebody's calling my nickname, I just feel like, paying the attention. And it kind of proves that we are part and parcel of Krishna. He would also love to hear his name. So when we chant and call his name, he would be very eager to hear his name. So that's kind of us feeling the connection about our feeling and his feeling Krishna's same, and we are part and parcel of it. I kind of feeling really good about that.
Thank you so much, Radhakripa Prabhu, for bringing that, especially with such feeling behind it. Could see it in your smile. Tathagat.
Hi everyone. So today morning I lost my wallet and I had a lot of like debit cards, credit cards, and most importantly my driver's license in it. And tonight I'm flying back to San Diego, so I was worried that how will I go back? I lost my identity proof. I cannot even board the flight. So still I just made a try to walk back the path I was walking in the morning. So I was going and I found that my handkerchief was lying there. So I at least got to know that okay, like my wallet must have fell down, but I was thinking, yeah, like I got a fraud transaction alert, so definitely somebody must have picked it up. So there's no way I could have found it. But still I was walking with a friend and he told me like, okay, just let's take a look inside. So we went into the place where we were meditating in the morning. So as soon as I entered, one person asked me, do you know who is Tathagat Pal? So I was like, wait, how do you know? So he said there were a lot of cards laying down on the street. So basically he picked up the cards and he washed it and kept it outside the place we were at. So this reminded me that, and yeah, so basically the person took the wallet, but he and took the picture of the cards and he left it there. So this was a gentle reminder that yeah, sometimes we face a lot of ups and downs in this world, and it is important to like keep in mind that just because we are not the ultimate, yeah, we are not the ultimate controller, but there is some other supreme controller, as you always mention. So yeah, this was a good learning that I got today.
Wow. Amazing how many harrowing experiences there are when we just share one incident from one day each. Okay, Bhakti Mateus for the close.
Hi, so I work in a clinic with kids with autism, and I have a client. He's a 4-year-old boy, and the parents, they sometimes send him like small, I don't know, fruits or milk or stuff like that. So today he had his milk in his backpack, and he was asking me to get it, but the milk was it was rotten. So when I showed it to him, he started crying, and he threw like a really big tantrum. And then I could just see like myself or like project myself that sometimes when we get really caught up with emotions, but when we see things from the outside, we can understand that things are not as they bad as they seem. So that was my learning from today.
Well, thanks, Bhakti Mateus. And that's definitely one of the things we'll talk about today. JM, should we ask one more time if there's anybody here for the first time who wants to say hey?
Yeah, sure. Yeah, eh, we would love to hear from you in case you're here for the first time or you brought in a friend. Please feel free to unmute and say hi or type in the chat box. Our operators are on standby.
Or just send a profusion of emojis so we
Yeah.
catch our attention. Okay, then we're off. And here we go. I have a lot of slides today, so get ready. Buckle your seatbelts. I talk about this today because it's very practical and it's foundational. It's also one of the main teachings in the Bhagavad Gita, Srimad Bhagavatam, what to speak of. The literatures of any spiritual discipline emphasize equanimity, which means balance, how to be equipoised. So, title from today, In the Swing. And life moves up and down, you don't have to. In fact, in the Gita, Bhagavad Gita, Krishna talks about how the mind can be the best friend or the worst enemy. And sometimes somebody's sitting still in a peaceful place, but still their mind is moving violently because of either intoxication or because the mind's disturbed in certain ways. And that person perceives the world as moving violently because that's their inner state. So, what's the process and what's the result and the effect of practicing equanimity? So, thinking about how we swing from one mood to another, we have Jam, you want to move that along a little bit? There we go. Did you ever hear the admonition, don't look at your messages at night? Well, I have that in my life because what if you read a disturbing message or hear about a complex situation right before you go to sleep, maybe restless sleep that night. And in the case of our external environment, one of which is taking information in rather rapidly from many different people and institutions, one text can lift your mind up, another one can make you feel downtrodden, wrecked, anxious, and so forth. So the mind's placid until something hits it, and then it can be full of ripples. When a surface of a pond is disturbed, we can't see beneath it, nor can we reason very well. So couple of questions. Did you have any circumstance today? Can you remember anything based on these two slides? One of them is one text can wreck your consciousness. The other one can uplift you. Were there any stimuli in your environment today that shaped your mood? Can you think back and say, such and such a thing shaped my mood? And
There
there's
is a poll.
available for you now. Did
Yeah.
you receive any praise, criticism, or something else? It's a generic question to start with, in that can you think back and see how you were affected by anything like praise, criticism, or something else today? Just try to take a minute, no rush. We're not grading this on a curve.
We have so far received 14 votes out of 32.
14 votes, that's a lot.
17 out of 32.
Somebody said, "You're so smart." Someone said, "You talk funny." Or something else happened. It's just really a check back and see how you might have been affected today.
We are close to 60%. Hope we can get to 80%. Generally, my parents want me to
Come
be
on,
over
team, we can
80%.
do it. Go for 100%.
Oh yeah, that would be better.
There's a prize available at the end. Okay, Jam, let's see the result.
Okay, so we have.
Oh, I didn't answer. Well, no wonder I'm wrecking everything. Okay.
So have you submitted the poll?
How did our scientific study look?
Okay, so
What
we are
get?
at 71% at this point. So this is the result.
26% were of the participants had their mood shaped by praise, 13 by criticism, and 65% by something other. Pray tell, does anyone want to share? Can you think of a specific thing that happened today that shaped your mood?
Yeah, I'm very curious. The other
Yeah,
section
have something.
slash. Yeah, Amit, go ahead.
Yeah, so I think for me, what shaped my mood was an unexpected postponement of an interview. Like I've been practicing in one area of law, and then I had an interview today to practice in a different area of law, and I was prepping for the interview throughout the last weekend, and I was really looking forward to it. And the person who was supposed to interview me, like, postponed the meeting 20 minutes before the actual interview. At first, I was like, man, why did I prep for this long? But then I'm like, this is my sign that I could just gotta surrender sometime and, like, expect unexpected things, and maybe tomorrow it will pay off. So yeah, so that has shaped my mood for the day.
Thanks for sharing. I'm sure we can all relate. Expectation is the mother of disappointment. Sanskriti.
Hare Krishna Prabhu. I think it's nothing that happened today, but I think yesterday when we were talking and I got a chance to talk to you personally, I think that has been keeping me going. Even today, I woke up with the enthusiasm to show up for my sadhana and do good. And also, after associating with all the devotees yesterday in the temple. So I think, yeah, that's it.
Wow, yeah. So the power of association.
Yeah.
In fact, these kinds of observations are very helpful because we can look into where we're investing our time and our attention. And if we direct it in ways that we know will uplift us, then we have a science on our hands. We can actually practice something and make improvements. Fantastic. So,
Karel,
Yes.
Yeah, similar thing with the association this morning. There's an online Japa gathering, and the lady that was leading it, she gave some inspiration on when the mind wants to take us anywhere but to chanting, to have an affirmation. I get to chant, I want to chant, I love to chant, and it just switches the mindset to what a gift we have been given the Maha Mantra. So that inspired me. So I felt like motivated to make a little sign up to put in the toilet to just keep that like regularly in my vision. Yeah, so that was my influence this morning.
Thank you. Again, another aspect of our life that we can engineer and add in. This is what's known in spiritual practice as sadhana. Sadhana means a specific kind of practice to get a specific kind of result. And knowing which things affect us the most is very helpful. Go ahead, James.
Yeah, there are a few more on the board. I'll quickly go through them. Uh, Lavanya said, I'm learning how important the words we speak are. Thank you, Vaishkapru, for emphasizing about this in several sessions. Phil says, I made this up the other day. News stands for negative evening worry session.
Ha! Way to go, Phil.
And then Hades says, +1, I can't vote because I'm on my phone. But yes, it's hard to see someone you love get wrapped up in the Maya and reactivity. I decided to take a step out, went on a hike in nature with my dog and chanted my morning japa outdoors. That shifted my day beautifully. Nice, Heidi. Then Lavanya said, other, surrender to Krishna. Kautuk, other, encouragement. And you're given few definitions. And Kautuk also captured, I get to, I want to, I love to chant. Very nice.
A lot of good stuff pouring in today, Jam.
Yes.
All right, let's keep going because it's a long journey today through the slides. You all ready for the next one? I'll take that as a yes. Life comes in pairs. It's the world of duality. This is natural because we're spiritual beings in a material body. We're in a world that's constantly changing, whereas we're not changing. This is the philosophy of Bhagavad Gita. We're a higher energy, consciousness. Consciousness is what animates the body. The body's inert matter. So that's a duality in and of itself. And the way the world changes may affect us. Praise, blame, loss, gain, victory, defeat, happiness, distress can change. I've watched babies sometimes, and they can go from laughing and all of a sudden crying and then back to laughing again. They can switch so quickly. The mind is subtle. It can move back and forth according to the stimuli from the environment. And so talking about in the next slide, the old operating system. When we're up, we feel elation. When we feel down, we feel despair. Either way, it's exhausting. And this is one of the points that Krishna makes in the Bhagavad Gita about how to interact with the world in a tolerant way. It's a form of tolerance to do your work without being attached to the result. Doesn't mean that you don't live according to what you need, but it means that you work as a matter of duty rather than being attached to exactly what you get from it. You stay in process. Otherwise, when we're controlled by the results, then we're subjected to whether they're up or down. And we're not always in control of those. So the other way of working is to stay in the center. As Krishna says in the Bhagavad Gita, do your work, perform your duty, but don't be attached to the fruits. Don't give up your work, but work in such a way that you can be expert at it and don't consider the result. That eliminates the high and the low. And equipoise, the next slide, which defines what that word means. Equi obviously means equal. And interesting, poise means grace and dignity. So Krishna calls this yoga. Yoga is not necessarily an asana. Looks like the subject of this slide is performing the mountain pose and staying perfectly still. And we can also have an internal state in which we are balanced. And this is what Krishna describes in the Bhagavad Gita, the internal state, where we're then moving in the world with grace and dignity, because we're not overwhelmed by the dualities and the ups and downs. So there are some philosophical systems which note the dualities of the world and then teach that we should give them up altogether, no duality. That is in the sense of numbing our feelings, our emotions, not being involved with anything. It's a kind of abject renunciation or detachment from the world. But according to the Bhagavad Gita, this isn't possible because the nature of consciousness is to be engaged. We're sentient, which means we have senses. We're sensitive. And what's more, it's inherent in the living condition, in consciousness, to love and to be attached as well. So it's not a matter of whether or not we're going to be attached or engaged, but it's a matter of where we're going to be attached and engaged. And there is a way in which to be fully engaged, but also free from the dualities of the material world. And we'll talk about that more. Here's a verse directly from the Bhagavad Gita. Perform your duty equipoised, O Arjuna. That's Krishna speaking to Arjuna, his student. Abandoning all attachment to success or failure, such equanimity is called yoga. So a question comes up again in our magical slide deck, that when was the last time you couldn't enjoy the process because you were too worried about the result? When we come back to the Zoom room, it means you have to answer. When's the last time you couldn't enjoy the process because you were too worried about the result? First of all, what do you think of the question? Okay, go ahead, Phil.
Yeah, I'll break the silence. Even last night with the session I sat on with KG and Dharma Rapini, like some of the words I just don't get because of, I'm still learning and things like that. But I'm sort of just thinking, well, I'm not going to learn everything in one night. So I've just got to sit back and just know that over time things will make sense. And I try not to, and that's how I try not to stress out, because sometimes I will just go, oh, I just don't understand it. Yeah, so for me, it was just last night, just trying to pick up words but not understanding, and I'd have to look them up later. And Can be frustrating actually, but my point is, not my point, but I just sort of am learning to just pull back and learn at my own pace, and everything will fall into place, I guess. Yeah.
That's a very astute observation about the process of learning something. We have to be tolerant in the beginning of our own possible ineptitude, because how could we possibly master something when we're just starting? And so to be tolerant of our involvement and not try to catch it all in one go, and just being patient is a kind of equanimity of trusting the process. Rakesh and then Sherelle.
Hare Krishna. Yeah, I was just thinking, as an academic, we have to constantly keep submitting grants to the federal agencies. So the last time I was writing a grant, I was so much focused on trying to make it perfect that I should get it this time. And then the whole process became so overwhelming. And then all of a sudden I started questioning myself, why am I even in this profession? Why do I have to write the grant? This is so stressful. So the whole profession or the career I chose was starting to feel burdensome. And then I think eventually it caught up on me that all I can do is I can just do my best, whether this gets funded or not. I just have to write the best proposal I can within the time frame and within the given time I have. That is when things started calming down. Otherwise, it was getting very overwhelming. It's a recent experience I could think of.
Yeah, that's a very practical example. I have a friend. Actually, he's not a friend, it's more of an acquaintance, but he's a friend of a friend. And he was writing a book, and he was having a hard time finishing it or even getting absorbed in it. And he became so frustrated that then he remembered Bhagavad Gita and not being attached to the result. And he describes how as soon as he gave up the attachment to writing a book and just became absorbed in the process itself, he said it flowed out like anything. It became a very popular book. It's called The Dark Night of the Soul. I think it's Bhagavad Gita and the Dark Night of the Soul, but it has that section in the title. And I was interested with the process. I'm always interested in process, and especially in writing. What is the point at which you start being vulnerable and writing what you're really thinking and feeling, instead of trying to write according to what you think other people want or what you want them to perceive of you. And in that sense of letting go and just being vulnerable, there's a lot of freedom. And I think that yeah, I relate to that point about in the process of writing something for your profession and thinking, is this all worth it? I was curious, Chuck, can you relate to that at all, since you're in academics and likely are also under the umbrella of publish or perish?
I can, yeah. Fortunately, I'm past the publisher perish phase, so I do remember how stressful that was. But I feel like for me, the big thing that keeps me going is focusing on the people that I'm trying to help with the work, the service aspect to it. And I think that helps a lot with the kind of, fear and anxiety and, will I get the grant, won't I get the grant? And so I just try to, as you're saying, emphasize the process, and then also emphasize, my motivation comes from the service that I want to do to help others.
Yeah, thank you very much, Chuck. I mean, just hearing your voice, it's very calming, I must say. Sherelle, did you have a point you wanted to make?
Yeah, I just wanted to circle back to what Phil was saying, and the words meeting ourselves where we're at comes to mind. Yeah, so actually, what you know now is what you're meant to know. And the idea of like, yeah, things will land when Krishna wants them to. And when we're in situations that we don't want, like recognizing that there's still some things happening that are okay as well. Like, yeah, there's the crappy stuff going on, but there's also like, right now I've got the sun on my feet, so I can just enjoy that moment and meeting life where it is, like rather than like planning ahead of what service I want to do when I get better. Like, when does that time even come? Because we're only ever in the present. Like, yeah.
Yeah, it's an important point you make, Sherelle. And there's a poetical verse at the end of the book called Chaitanya Charitamrita, in which the author says, birds fly in the sky as high as they're able, but the sky's unlimited. So why measure? Because, or compare to others. And there are other indications within the wisdom literatures, like Srimad Bhagavatam, and Krishna refers to a word, adhikari. Adhikari means your present qualification. And he makes this statement, Swe Swe Adhikariya Nishta Saguna Parikirtita, which means that if you act according to your level, the one that you're in now or at now, that's a good quality. To admit whatever you're fit for, and then just take it from that level. He's called that's guna. Guna means it's a good quality. And then he says viparyu to dosha sad. Dosha means a fault, and viparyu means the opposite. If you try to do more than you're qualified for, then that's a fault. And then he last line says this is one of the foundational principles of practice is to act according to where you are now. And then, of course, there's others that comment on this and say that it's like climbing a ladder. Once your foot is firmly on a rung, you should also take the next step. If you try to run up the ladder, you may slip and fall. But if you're too tentative about every step and don't make progress, take a little bit of a risk. When you're fairly sure your foot is on the rung, then you won't move and your progress will be slowed or stopped. Okay, everyone passed. A plus. Okay, Bhagavad Gita, we're back to the slides. An interesting verse from the Bhagavad Gita, 12th chapter. He by whom no one is put into difficulty and who is not disturbed by anyone, who is equipoised in happiness and distress, fear and anxiety, is very dear to me. So this question on the board from Manish, JM. Because that last verse talks about being equipoised in happiness and distress. And isn't that interesting? Let's see what Manish has to say.
Yeah, Manish asked, how to be equipoised in happiness? Don't we want to feel the happiness for a longer duration? Why it is mentioned to tolerate the happiness? Shouldn't one be rejoicing in happiness?
In this case, it's talking about the happiness that comes to one's mind because of circumstances in the material world. For instance, you may get some wealth, or it just might be a nice day. And a person who is absorbed inwardly with inward happiness doesn't consider the rise and fall of happiness and distress from the material position to be significant because it comes and goes. In fact, it's one of the teachings of the Bhagavad Gita that a person who's dhira or steadily happy because the happiness that he or she experiences is coming from the experience of one's own consciousness and the connection of one's consciousness with the supreme consciousness. It's not an abstract thing, it's relational. Is not elated when there's some gain that comes from the material side, because two sides of the coin, happiness and distress in the material world, come and go with the changes of circumstances. And so, as an example, my teacher used to give, Prabhupada used to say that, and this was when people didn't live in air conditioning and have hot and cold water and so forth, but in the wintertime, people were happy to be in the kitchen cooking because it's a little warmer in there. But and then in the summer, in the hot summer, then think, oh, it's too hot. I don't want to cook. But a person who's dutiful and also balanced, equipoise, does their duty regardless if it's hot or cold, whatever the external circumstances are. So the water in the winter, when it's may feel caustic. In other words, it's so cold and you're bathing from a place that doesn't have hot water. And then you may feel, oh, it's horrible. But in the summertime, that same feeling, the cold water is nice. And so the point is not to expose yourself to all the dualities necessarily, but just be aware of the fact that this kind of happiness and distress comes from our senses interaction with the world. It has nothing to do with our inner state. Sherelle.
Yeah, so I have a question in regards to where the happiness or distress is coming from. Like, say if like you wake up in the morning and you're just like considering all the things that you're grateful for, and you're just in this like state. It's come like, I guess it's come from the heart into the mind, and you've had these thoughts. So even though it's like it's quite subtle, it's still like from the mind, like it's still like a material happiness.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and as Krishna describes in the Bhagavad Gita, the mind is the lens through which we see the world. Or as Epictetus, the Greek philosopher, said, we don't see the world the way it is, we see the world the way we are.
Mm.
And so then Krishna describes how there are these three modalities that we're subjected to in the material world: sattva, rajas, tamas. And they have their characteristics. Sattva, there's a sense of peacefulness and clarity. Rajas, there's a sense of activity and intense endeavor to try to get something more. And then in tamas or ignorance, we feel oppressed. It's hard to move. It's hard to feel grateful. And we just feel stuck. So these modes are always mixing. And there are combinations, permutations of those modes that affect our mind. And then let's just say we're affected by rajas. We feel, oh no, I got to get going. I got to keep moving or I'll be consumed by the world. And when the mode of goodness, we may feel more introspective and be able to feel a little bit of inner satisfaction. And when we're in the mode of ignorance, I'm sure somebody's had this experience before where you just can't get it going. Uh, if you ever sat in a chair and you think, oh, I have to tidy up my room, and you see something on the floor and you go, nah, I can't do it. I can't move that fast. I can't even get up. These are influences of the modalities of nature. And so the practice, spiritual practice, is to purify the mind so that the mind becomes a lens through which we see beyond the dualities of the world. We see the common source of everything. This is in sattva, and beyond even sattva, this spiritual vision through which we, as Krishna mentions in the Bhagavad Gita, when Arjuna asks him, what are the symptoms of somebody who's experiencing spiritual advancement? And he says, Prajahati yada kaman sarva partha manogatan atman yevatmana tushta stita pragnasta dochite. And that means that the person notices that the mind is manufacturing various desires and conundrums and anxieties, but is observant of those, but doesn't feel obligated to catch on to them. They're detached from their life situation and the way the mind's presenting it. And at the same time, Atman Yevatmana Tushta means that that person is feeling satisfaction in him or herself. That is natural because our natural state of consciousness is to be blissful because we really have nothing to do with the changes of the material world. JM, there's more stuff on the board.
Yeah, Heidi just posted, if you don't see the world the way it is, instead we see it by how we are. Does being in Krishna consciousness, thinking of Krishna always, allow us to see truth more clearly or at all?
Yes, not just at all, but clearly. So there's a famous verse in the Bhagavatam that describes the problem we have is that we feel separate from our source. This is called dvitiya, and the word dvitiya means two, like duo, two. It's the same word, cognate in English, TWO. That's why it's such a weird word. It comes from Sanskrit originally. And so we see two things. We see ourselves as separate from our source. And then fear arises because we think we're going to be vanquished or something, but we never are. And the problem is, it says in the Sanskrit, it says, Bhayam dvitya abhinibeshata syad ishad apetasya viparya yosmiti, which means that we've turned away from our source. Apetasya means we turned our head away from our original source. That we're part of and that which we're happy with when we serve. And therefore, we see something separate. There is nothing separate. It's one thing. It comes from one source. But when we see that duality, then we come into fear and we don't see things as they are. Oh, look, Kotik posted. That's going to be good.
Kautu posted the verse, O
Oh,
Partha, when a,
yeah.
O Partha, when a man gives up all varieties of desire for sense gratification, which arise from mental concoction, and when his mind, thus purified, finds satisfaction in the self alone, then he is said to be in pure transcendental consciousness.
Pure transcendental consciousness. Just wrap your head around that for a minute. Pure transcendental consciousness. When the pure spiritual experience is excited by means of cognition and service, super excellent, unalloyed devotion for the Supreme Godhead is awakened toward Krishna, the beloved of all souls. So there's a way in which, through practice, as described in the verse I just mentioned, it's from the Brahma Samhita. That spiritual experience, that's us. We're already capable of feeling that. It's there. It's just covered over. And like if you turn away from the sun, you see a shadow. But when you realize your nature, yeah, I heard a story from a god brother of mine. He said once the sun sent out all sun rays to try to go find some darkness, and they went everywhere, but they couldn't find any. They're self-luminous. We're also self-luminous. So when we identify ourselves as being part of the supreme luminous source, and we see it, it's not a concoction. It's our ontological nature, and when we're aligned in that, we don't see duality. Okay, JM, I better hit these slides or you're going to be mad at me. Okay, Bhagavatam, this is another verse. The exalted devotee's mind becomes equipoised in sensory activities, transcendental to what is agreeable and not agreeable. That's also in the Gita about persons not concerned with the external world in a sense, because he or she knows that it's just combinations and permutations of the modes of material nature. And there's a verse in the Bhagavad Gita that a person with this kind of vision sees pebbles. Just listen to this carefully. Pebbles, stones, or gold as the same. Says something. Sees as categorically, they're all objects to be used in service to the Supreme. And other than that, categorically, they're just part of the material world. Okay, then we have Bhagavatam 4:12:37, which was this fantastic conversation. If you don't have the Bhagavatam, you should have it just to read this conversation. It's between Maitreya, a great sage, an elderly sage, and Vidura, who was equally qualified, but he accepted Maitreya as his teacher. And Maitreya says, peaceful, equipoised, purified persons know the art of pleasing all other living entities as easily achieve going back to Godhead. So that's the power of being equipoised. A lot of verses here. Bhagavatam, since everything depends on the supreme will of the Lord, be equipoised in fame and defamation, victory and defeat, life and death. Maintain equilibrium without anxiety. A friend of mine once said, if you accept honor or praise for something you didn't do, then later you'll get the karma of being blamed for something you didn't do. It's the way of the world. It all balances out. And what you gain through this practice of being equipoised, you meet your higher self, become dear to the Supreme, you find your way home back to your source, and anxiety turns to trust. So carry these two things for the road. Chant the Ma mantra in joy, grief, in chaos, in calm. Here's a song, I just sang it last night. It says, Grihe tako bane tako, sarahadi bole tako, suke duke bulo nako, varane harinam korure, which means that stay steady in your spiritual practice, especially keep the transcendental vibration going. That's keep doing the mantra. And you won't be subjected to the dualities, because when you're enveloped in the transcendental sound, then it brings you above the dualities that exist within the mind caused by the modes of nature. And reminder, things are never as good as they seem or as bad as they seem. I love this mantra. There's a way in which if you just wait long enough, you get bad news. If you don't overreact and you deal with it in a methodical but dispassionate way, then you start to see that things always even out here in the material world. And I've had people think they were being thrust into horrible circumstances and they said it was the best time of my life. Mike Tyson, he went to jail for, I forget how many years. Somebody look it up. How many years did he go to jail? He said, best years of his life. And I've met other people that were in similar circumstance said, yeah, that's when I really got my life together. So we really, we may be steady when we have a clear understanding of what the ultimate goal of life is. Okay, JM, I see we're moving on. The ripple effect. Less projection, less reaction, more compassion. Somebody tell me what that means. You might win something. Kotik? Kotik's a monk. He thinks about these things deeply. Let's see what he says. What does it mean, the ripple effect? Less projection, less reaction, more compassion.
Uh, it means whatever you put in the world, it expands from there. So, so if we put out compassion, it will expand from there.
What about projection?
Projection, I'm not sure.
Well, think about how to project. Yes, Sherelle, go ahead. Oh, and Priyanka's got her hand up too. We got a lively session going on here. Go ahead.
So projection, less projection is like from your inner state, like projecting unhealed wounds or karmas onto someone else. That kind of settles down. Reaction is like from outer world coming into you, and like you're not so reactive to that. It's just like, oh, okay, that's happening. And then you can be in that equanimous state and you can see things clearly with compassion of why things are happening. And yeah, have that bit of kindness towards it.
Brava. Well done. Thank you. Priyanka.
I understood it like less projection, not having a lot of expectations, high expectations, and then when you don't have expectations, then you won't react to any situation because you'll be calm, you will take it as it is, and again, when you're not having a lot of expectations and reactions to the situations, then your mind has more clarity, and you'll rather have compassion for others and be able to serve them and help them.
Wow, fantastic. I love that. Thank you very much, Priyanka. The very concepts we're talking about, at least they give us some sense of how to employ this way of being equipoised. And we have another live poll, and we still have a few minutes to do it too. Okay, which duality is hardest for you? Praise, blame, gain, loss, victory, defeat, happiness, or distress? And here comes the poll. Our operators are standing by to take your answers.
So we have off races 10 12% in, 15, 18, 25% in, 37, 40, 50% in, 59% in, 71, 75. We may cross 80 this time, hopefully. Let's see. We are at 75%.
Okay, let's have the reveal.
Yes,
I
78.
mean, that's way above what we get in America for people voting for elections. Okay, 40% praise, blame. Okay, that's the highest one. Gain, loss, 8%. Victory, defeat, 24%. 28% can relate to that. I voted for praise, blame, just to be transparent. There's a verse in the Bhagavatam that mentions how it's really hard to tolerate, especially he said when ignorant people give you harsh words. It's really hard to control the mind. And that's one of the dualities that we get from our environment, harshness of praise, blame. So we should practice noticing. This is introspection. Notice the swing. What happens when something affects you? Pause. Name the duality. This is called noting. You see it and you put a little post-it note on it and say, that's what it is. And be aloof. Watch from a distance. Next one, practice. Number 2, find stillness. Breathe a few rounds. That means chant. Keep the vibration going. Then respond. Because when you respond, when you're emotionally disturbed, your reason goes down precipitously. It looks like this on a chart. Emotion goes up, reason goes down. Okay, then number 3, practice to ask this question. What's the lesson that this circumstance is teaching me? What can I offer to the situation? What can I let go? Next is last reflections. You have exactly 60 seconds. One thing you're taking away. Okay, Lee J.
Hare Krishna, Vashishika Prabhu. I think one thing that I will take away from today's lesson is we need to practice a strong internal sadhana because the ups and downs externally relies on our internal practice to always remind ourselves these are just external factors. And if we do not have the strong internal force, and we will just be easily drift away.
Thank you so much. That was very helpful. With that, we can take what we've learned here. Okay, Megan.
Yes, also I practice, but it's so hard to become more observer than become involved with the things. Because when I feel I am the part of it and I become involved, then my emotion goes up and down more. But if I see myself as an observer first and then try to act, it's much easier. But I'm practicing for a while, but I'm not, it doesn't work yet.
Sage advice, Megan. Thank you very much. In fact, we just read about that in the Bhagavatam. It's in the 11th canto. There's a word, sakshi, in Sanskrit, which means witness. And sakshitva, it's the state of witnesshood. And so one of the teachings there is to do what you were just talking about, was to be able to step back and observe what's actually taking place and not be carried away by it. JM, any last thoughts since you're smiling?
No, I was just wondering today when I was preparing this slide that it's a fortune or a blessing to be engaged in this service where you get purified as you do it, as well as participate in this session. So thank you for another uplifting session today.
It's a great slide that you made, that last one. I like the notice, chant, ask, NCA. We could take that one away in our pockets, right? Maybe even get a tattoo. Don't do that. Somebody did it and then they showed me. I have a thought that we could leave on a joyful note. This phrase Hari Bol, you hear it a lot high in the Himalayas because the yogis who live in caves there come out every once in a while to get some fruits, tubers, and they see sometimes their colleagues and they want to express something that will encourage others. And it's another way of saying hello and goodbye, kind of like aloha, which means the breath of God. And they put their arms high in the air and they say Hari Bol. You want to try it?
Yeah.
I'm doing it. Hari Bol. Thanks, everybody.
Thank you.
KTBG, keep the transcendental vibration going. Notice, chant, ask. NCA.